Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
With the extraordinary feat of U.S. military arms that seized and extracted Venezuela dictator Nicolas Maduro on Saturday, President Trump has reestablished the priority of hemispheric security among America's vital interests. In so doing, he served notice on this country's enemies in the Americas and those like China, Russia, and Iran that have been allowed for far too long to operate here with impunity. Freedom-loving nations and peoples in the region will have a powerful friend in the United States, and their foes, a determined and engaged adversary. To be clear, the United States did not seek to change Venezuela's regime. Until that happens, the communists, Cartel, and foreign powers that have tyrannically misruled there will remain a metastasizing threat to the native population and to ours. But an opportunity to secure both has been created and must now be actualized.
Welcome back to More War Monday here. The Rob Maness Show's live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, the Trump doctrine looks a lot like America's original foreign policy. That's right. That's why I'm wearing my 1776 tie right here today. Our original presidents didn't go around looking for democracies to create using military force and endless wars, but they didn't hesitate to use those forces to protect our interests abroad, and especially in the Western Hemisphere. President Jefferson himself, yep, that guy, TJ, used the Navy and Marines to protect American shipping against the Barbary pirates in North Africa. And the Monroe Doctrine was developed to challenge foreign actors in our own hemisphere, those colonial powers, France, Spain, England. President Trump appears to be following a similar path, and I voted for that. The recent attack on Venezuela and capture of that cartel leader Maduro, communist that he is, enforcing sanctions by capturing Ghost Fleet oil tankers on the high seas, a very appropriate and legal approach to this effort, and putting tyrants like the Iranian Ayatollah on notice that we will act if necessary, have all changed the geopolitical environment that we're standing in the moment. We're setting aside the broken globalist approach and re-engaging with the world as what? America, the United States of America, the strongest power in the world, and most importantly, acting on our national interests. The latest approach to acquire Greenland is a great example of that new method, as it's making all sides rethink how they interact with us. And my guest today is a leading member of the new Pentagon Press Corps that was rolled out last year, an old friend of ours, CDM Press President and CEO Todd Wood is with us, and he's been reporting on Secretary Hegseths US tour and all the action we've been seeing lately. He's a former special operations helicopter pilot, and as CEO of CDM Press, he's on a mission to report the truth, as America's free press should be, to protect our way of life. Todd, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show.
Rob, glad to be back, my friend. Always enjoy it. Good
and
talking
you're busy.
to another comrade in arms. Yeah, I am busy.
You're busy. I'm afraid you're going to get too big, like my friend Jack Posobiec, and I won't be able to get you on the show anymore, man. You're my most reliable national security and geopolitics guest.
Oh, you can't ever make that comparison, man. That's not going to happen.
Don't let Bannon tell you can't come on my show anymore. I can't get him on my show. So next time you talk to him, tell him I'm still trying to get him on my show.
I will. I mean, he won't come on my show either. So there you go.
I know he won't, but I'm just kidding with him. But I did try to meet with him last week when I was in Washington, but he was I think he was in Texas, unfortunately. Hey, okay, so we got a lot to talk about here. One, just real fast, is the Pentagon Press pool working out the way you thought it was going to when you got your pass?
Yeah, pleasantly surprised. I mean, of course, not everybody on that is a serious person. I'm going to be the first to admit that. There's some people in there who shouldn't be there. Let's just say that. I don't want to name names, but there are some very good, serious journalists in there, and I could name a few. G Captain John Conrad, probably the most knowledgeable on merchant marine and naval operations. He runs a very impactful maritime website. He's fantastic. David Zier at Real America's Voice, very serious individual, knows what he's talking about, has traveled with the White House, and so there are some very serious people. Matt Gaetz and others.
Well, that's great news because I've either interviewed or been interviewed by everybody you mentioned. So
good.
I'm in the right target zone then.
So I was actually really pleasantly surprised on this trip we just went on. Not necessarily with the DOW. Well, the DOW, let me say, the Department of War is extremely professional. Let me just say that. The other side has tried to diminish them as too young or say we're all podcasters or whatever. But, during World War II, we had journalists who were on the same team as us, as the military. And I think that's important. We're going to ask some tough questions. If you noticed, I asked a tough question in the last press briefing. Is there going to be direct action in Venezuela soon? Because we've seen Task Force 160 down there already practicing. Obviously, that was spot on because that's what happened. So we're going to ask some tough questions, and we're going to hold them accountable, but we're not going to be actively trying to undermine the Department of War. I mean, I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, I think if they had not taken that action, that the operation would have been leaked into Venezuela, and that would have destroyed the effectiveness of that operation. So you have the exact opposite, a near perfect operation, mission completed correctly with, in this case, 0 casualties, not even a wound, I don't think, from what I've heard, except for that one helicopter.
Well, there were a couple crew members, Army helicopter crew members injured. I'll just leave it at that until the comes out. Yeah.
On the one that took the rounds, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
there was only one. Yeah,
and there's a story there which I'm trying to break, but I got to get permission to do it. So.
Oh man, yeah. When you get the chance to break the story, send me that, and I'll help amplify it for you, and we'll get you back on to talk about it.
Sure, of course.
The
of course, man.
So
we got to stick together,
Did you fly on the E4B?
I flew on the Doomsday plane. I made a big splash coming into LA. I guess it hadn't been landed there in like 50 years or something.
Well,
so
you passed the first
the
test.
The world was going to end.
You passed the first test. You knew it was an E4B. Did you know that I was the vice wing commander of that wing that operated that? And I qualified as a navigator on that airplane.
Wow. So I got the tour, so you know everything I know now.
Yeah, there are no luxuries on that aircraft, are there? I just want to get that out there. Even in the private areas for the secretary, it's not luxurious, is it?
No, it's not. But I was just saying the food was really good, and I really appreciate the crew for working hard to treat us well. So that was nice.
Well, we're Air Force, you know that. So you had to hang out with too many Army guys, probably.
There were some on there, Marines and Navy and all that.
All right, let's see here. Where do I want? Okay. Look, man, let's talk about the new reinvigoration of the Monroe Doctrine for a second here. I touched on it in my opening a little bit, and we'll talk some more about it in the next segment. We're going to talk and make it all about Greenland. But do you think that we're going to see my vision of taking on the narco-terrorist cartels, now that at least some of them have been named international terrorist organizations, and actually do some interdiction sorties, so to speak, with special operations forces and air forces, and take them on in different countries other than just Venezuela?
Well, Here's what I think is going on. Short answer is yes, but I think that there's a concept of the assassin's mace that everyone was talking about China doing, where the enemy creeps up on you and gets close enough to then when they attack, it's too late for you and you just can't react. I think you're seeing kind of reverse of that right now. I think Trump has been laying some groundwork now for a long time, and now we're getting to the action phase. If you notice, it's kind of a crescendo building here of action against certain targets. He's mentioned Mexico recently. Yes, I think that I don't have any inside information on Mexico at all, except what I've seen in the press. But I do think something has come. I wouldn't want to be a cartel member right now. Just put it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've seen intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance platforms, ISR platforms out there, just kind of flying around off of the Baja California there, and regular bases on the southern border of the United States, over the landmass of Mexico, and of course out in the Gulf of America, off the east coast of Mexico, and then down over Colombia too. So I know a little bit about what those folks are up to, and I'd say that we've been mapping the networks and getting the target packages prepped for quite some time now.
I think you're exactly correct. I think that was obviously going on in Venezuela. I think it's obviously going on in other areas. You could go down the list. Iran, we can talk about the wisdom of that. But I do believe that there's been a lot of planning happening behind the scenes. And I have to say, I was really impressed with Secretary Hegseths. I got to spend 30 minutes kind of one-on-one with him, asking me any question I wanted off the record. And he is one sharp individual. He's stracked, as we used to say at the academy. He's got it together. He knows a lot. He's on top of everything and has the right mindset to take care of the troops, but get the mission done. And no BS, no DEI, nothing. Just let's get the best in there. And that goes from industry to personnel to weapons to policy. I was very encouraged by the trip. It really gave me a shot in the arm as to what this administration is doing.
I'm glad you brought him up personally. So from your perspective, and you're an Air Force Academy graduate, which me and you were a commander in the Air Force, weren't you? In helicopters?
No, I wasn't. I left as a aircraft commander, then I punched.
Okay. Well, you were an aircraft commander then. So your sense is that Pete is on the money. He's with it. He understands the issues that he's dealing with every day to the level of complexity that's needed by a Secretary of Defense. I just want to hear you say that.
I completely agree with you. And I would add to that, leadership. I mean, I was up with him at 5 a.m. at the UCLA Stadium doing PT with the cadets, ROTC cadets. And it was impressive. I have to say, the guy's pushing, I don't know, what is he, mid-40s? But he was impressive, I have to say. And then not just working out, but interacting with the cadets, motivating the cadets, giving them purpose, giving them leadership, and telling them what they need to hear as young officer candidates. And I was really impressed. So all the way from the personnel leadership issues, at the academy we learned what was Patton's quote: if you can't get them to salute the way you want them to salute or wear the clothes you want them to wear, how are you going to get them to die for the country? And so that is, I saw that kind of leadership with Hegseth, and I think it's genuine, and I really appreciated that. Having family members in the military, I feel a lot better.
So did you go to any Air Force bases, Navy bases, Marine Corps, Army bases with him?
We went to one military enlistment processing center. There's an acronym for that, MEC or something.
MEP.
MEP. And so I saw a swearing in of 35 guys, or guys and gals, different services, some in the California National Guard. Then we went to 3 factories. We obviously landed or took off at Andrews, Joint Base Andrews. So I got to see base operations again for the first time in 40 years. But
you can't judge. You can't. What my question was going to be about was: are you seeing a sense of good order and discipline? You can't, but you can't judge it by Andrews because they put all the the folks that are high achievers there, overachievers there to make it look good. But
the crew on the E4B was sharp. Let's put it that way.
Say that again.
So I said the crew on the E4B was sharp.
Yeah, well,
the crew on the aircraft was sharp.
Yeah, they're the best of the best. Anyway, you think I'm going to say anything different? Come on, man. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, you got to see a great little video about Greenland. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We'll be right back.
What would happen if the USA invaded Greenland right now? U.S. warships appear off the coast of Greenland. Special forces land in the dead of night, seizing airstrips and key ports. The invasion has begun. The U.S. is after Greenland's untapped resources, rare earth metals critical for military, tech, and energy dominance. With China and Russia expanding influence in the Arctic, the U.S. makes its move before they can. Denmark, which owns Greenland, is outraged and scrambles to respond. It calls on NATO for help, but the alliance is divided. Does it really want war with the U.S.? Meanwhile, Russia sees an opportunity. Moscow denounces the invasion and deploys troops to the Arctic, claiming it's protecting Arctic sovereignty. China isn't silent either. Heavily invested in Greenland's mining industry, Beijing sends warships to challenge the U.S. in the North Atlantic, warning the U.S. to withdraw. A tense standoff begins. The EU imposes sanctions, while Canada mobilizes forces and strengthens its border, fearing war on its doorstep. Then, the unthinkable. Denmark fires warning shots at U.S. forces, demanding the end of the invasion. A single mistake could ignite global war. The world watches, waiting to see if diplomacy prevails or if the Arctic becomes the next battlefield.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast, and it's More War Monday, folks. And those of us in the national security profession, or that have been for quite some time in our lives, both get a little chuckle when we see a video like that and go, wow, somebody's put a lot of thought into this, but they're missing some things. And my guest today is the CEO and founder of CDM Press and former Special Operations Helicopter Pilot, Air Force Academy graduate, Todd Wood. You can follow him at Real Todd Wood on X, and just type in CDM Press in your search bar on whatever search engine. You'll go to his website, which has a whole host of publications, Armed Forces Press. And I can't even name them all, but they're fantastic, and they specialize and have real reporting from real reporters with integrity in places that the mainstream media either doesn't go or rarely goes, and they never tell you the truth about it. Todd, welcome back. We got to talk about the war in Greenland because, as you could see, some people think that we're going to have a world war over Greenland. I don't personally think that, but I think it's a great effort. It's a reinvigoration of an old idea in the United States to purchase Greenland like we purchased Alaska.
Yeah, and there was a lot of tension over that purchase. You know, the Russians were all involved in the Crimean War, and they needed money, and the Tsar was under pressure. And so, you know, you can go to Fort Roos still in San Francisco to this day. It still exists as a tourist attraction. It's all the Russian Empire went from Poland all the way to San Fran. So yeah, that was a big deal, and this is a big deal now. I don't think we'll have a war. Where did you get that video? I'm curious, who published that, or did you make it?
I did not make it. I found it when I was searching for. I just typed in, I think, Greenland and war in the X search bar, and that thing popped up.
Cool. Wasn't the Department of War that produced that, I guess?
I don't know who did, but there's a couple of things in it I wanted us to just bring to people's attention. Is like it says that Denmark responds and sends 2 ships out. I don't think Denmark's got anything bigger than a frigate, and it's probably only got 1. And then Canada reinforcing their border. Canada can't even march. If you looked at that video that John Conrad likes to share routinely to make fun of them and their rusty diesel submarine and their 3-boat navy, So I mean, that's the kind of thing that I wanted to a little bit about what I wanted to point out is that the powers in that video that they say are going to do something ain't. Am I right?
They have nothing to do anything with. I mean, even the UK is very much diminished, and that's on display in Ukraine. I mean, they're all big talk, but they have nothing to send. So look, I mean, this is hemispheric defense. It's obvious. I think Trump knows a lot that we don't know. I think that he's concerned about our homeland, and what better way to protect our homeland and our way of life than to build a hemispheric defense in the Western Hemisphere against other threats, and make sure that there are not bad actors on our doorstep. I don't think that's very difficult and to understand, and I think that's what he's doing. I don't think he will invade Greenland. I think he wants it very badly, and I think there will be some kind of resolution to this. I don't know what it is. There's only 50,000 people there. So
yeah, and it's not like it's a military issue, because we've had long-standing agreements with them. I mean, in the Air Force, that the long-time punishment for bad actors, whether you're officer or enlisted, is you get an assignment to Thule, Greenland, right?
Yeah.
And Thule Air Base is still there. I've flown over it many times, looked down and said, man, I don't ever want to go there in real life.
It's not like Iceland where there's all kind of beautiful girls, it's more.
I have been to Reykjavik too, and to Iceland, and to the Navy base, pulling alert in tankers there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's a place you can go, and there's some great. You can go golfing in the Arctic Circle up there in Iceland and have a good time, but you're not doing any of that in Greenland, I don't think. So it's not a military issue from the perspective of, do we need permission to have forces on the Greenland landmass, because we already have that. I think there's another location. I can't remember the name of it, though. Of course, that means that my memory is terrible, because there's only like 2 populated places, I think, at this point. At least heavily. Patuffik, maybe. Anyway, so the issue. So why are the NATO people that really have no military capability to prevent anything, if the president lost his mind and decided to send that invasion force there and take it like he did Venezuela's presidente there? I mean, give folks the sense of why they're all up in arms over it.
Because the European leaders are not working for the people of Europe. This is just plain as day, in my opinion. They're working for somebody else. It's some other big criminal cartel, organized crime, CCP, whatever you want to call it. They're working for them. They're not working for Europeans. They're intentionally destroying their culture, their society, their economy, their manufacturing, and it's dying. And Trump sees that, and he's withdrawing to Fortress America, and he's doing what he needs to build Fortress America. And part of that is not just the military in Greenland, but it's also minerals. There's a big economic, part of this. The Chinese have worked for 30 years to build the Belt and Road Initiative and have access literally in our face, shutting off supplies like the pharmaceuticals during COVID, like the minerals now, like silver right now, shutting down, hoarding the market and preventing export to try to harm our manufacturing. Trump sees all this. It's unrestricted warfare, and he's building Fortress America to protect our future. I think that's plain and simple. It's not just about oil in Venezuela. It's not just about military in Greenland. It's about, force protection, if you will, is the way I see it.
Yeah, I think folks that are alive today that haven't really didn't pay attention to World War II history or pre-World War II history, especially, don't realize that the post-World War II world order that the United States really created, and with things like West Germany, the original West Germany, the European powers being rebuilt and resurrected. That post World War II liberal world order, or you hear it called the rules based order, it has evolved into globalism. What that is, and President Trump is upending the apple cart of globalism because it's failed, right?
Yeah, and you look at what's happening in Europe. I mean, it's tyranny in Europe. They're putting people in jail for Facebook posts. They're cracking down on mass censorship. It's insane, and we don't want to be part of that. We don't want to support it. We don't want to defend it. So we can't change that society. They're already past the point, in my opinion. So why would we want to be there? Let's build Fortress America, build our economic powerhouse, build the golden age here, and we're taking down the two countries, in my opinion, that are the kind of, I call it the safe house for organized crime, Ukraine and Venezuela. And so when you remove those out of the equation, it gets much harder for them to launder money, to run drugs, to build, weapons factories, terrorist training camps, all of that stuff. We're allied with a lot of the Gulf nations now. I think that's intentional. And I think you're seeing a grand strategy play out and has become very apparent now that it's been happening for some time. And so that is what I see right now.
Yeah, it's I think it's the center mass of the target is China, the communist Chinese, and every move is going to have some type of negative impact on their freedom of movement, their freedom of commercializing in countries and building infrastructure in countries where they get them under their power, so that they can manipulate them and those kind of things. Every one of these moves has a direct impact negatively on the Chinese ability to do that. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, he's methodically taking apart the machine, if you will, removing levers of power against the U.S. I would expect Panama Canal to be in line, Mexico possibly, and now all this talk of Greenland and Canada becomes it becomes obvious as to what that was all about. People were just joking, but I think Trump would love to have the Arctic to Latin America, all an American sphere of influence with the golden age, hopefully without all this censorship and vaccine passport crap with the QR code for every individual. But that's what we have to stay in the fight and keep fighting for, and keep pushing to have freedom when all this is done.
Yeah. Do you think that when the Western Hemisphere defenses are rebuilt and activated, that we will take it another step, and instead of letting these tin horn banana republics rise up and fall and rise up again and fall, we will try to exert more influence, so that like we have more Bukeles and Malays instead of Pinochets?
I think, look at Honduras. I mean, Trump got actively involved there. I think that's an example. And yes, I think that he's going to, I don't think he's going to do the Iraq model. I think he learned from that, where you go in and try to change the government and install a puppet who's, not successful because he doesn't have the support of the people. You see this in Iran right now. There's all this talk of Pahlavi, the son of the Shah. He hasn't been there in 40 years. He doesn't have the support of the people. He's seen as a puppet.
That. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But you're right. With a minute left, what about Cuba? I think Venezuela is going to come along, because the people that are still in charge, although Frank Gaffney in his opening kind of mentioned that the communists are still there. They are. But I think they're going to come along eventually, because the president's using an economic lever and a military lever on them that they never dreamed of. But what about Cuba? Are we going to take Cuba on finally and finally turn that back into the island paradise that it is, and let the Cuban people that came here be able to have their property back and be prosperous and those kind of things?
I think yes on that as well. I think Cuba's the current regime is stay is measured in days, if not months. So, yes, I think Cuba's next, and it's exactly what I was talking about, in line with Venezuela, Mexico, and other areas. I think it's going to be there will be a change. I can't say what it's going to look like because I think Trump thinks out of the box, but that's coming. Yes, it's obvious.
Well, it's already it's having an effect. The old commie Daniel Ortega from Nicaragua is letting his political prisoners out. Nobody's even pressured him publicly.
Maybe there's some calls behind the scenes.
Maybe. All right, man. We got to take another break. When we come back, we'll be talking Iran. Todd and I's favorite subject. We're the same year group, commissioning year group, and I've been around as an enlisted guy a lot longer, and Iran was a problem when I came in. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
On how to respond. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. He will get a briefing from senior officials Tuesday, including more sanctions, cyber attacks, and even military strikes. Human rights groups report the regime has already massacred more than 500 people as protesters defy the Ayatollah's crackdown amid an ongoing internet blackout there. Protests have also been breaking out in Paris, London, and Turkey as Republicans and the administration pledge to stand with the Iranian people fighting for freedom.
The president has made it clear his opinion that the Iranian people deserve a good life. Certainly Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has stated the same as well regarding our commitment not just to them, but clearly a worldwide effort that President Trump is making through his cabinet, that we're determined to end this dynamic of constant suffering and constant carnage, and Iran certainly is a part of that framework that deserves to be better.
The president is expected to have a closed-door meeting with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, later on this morning. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Aisha.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, and it's More War Monday, and we're going around the world with CDM Press CEO and former Air Force Special Operations helicopter pilot Todd Wood. Todd, let's talk about Iran. Let's talk about the protests, and let's talk about the challenges. You mentioned the Shah's son just before we went to the break, and I've got some issues because I've known and have researched and been observing and surveilling one of the resistance organizations. It's called NCRI. Some people like to smear it and using the term MEK because the MEK was originally an anti-Shah group, resistance group in Iran that became an anti-Ayatollah resistance group after the Ayatollah was able to take over. And has been building this infrastructure and organization and developing a transition plan and establishing resistance units on the ground inside the country. And that is part of what is operating on this structure of protests that's happening and has grown over the last 15 days now, is that infrastructure. But the Shah, he says that he should be the leader, or the Shah's son, Pahlavi, says he should be the transitional leader, but I didn't hear anything out of him or any organization around him until the last few months.
You're correct. And all the influencers who are anti-MEK now have not said a word about Iran and its resistance or any kind of opposition for years either. They've been absent, and all of a sudden there's a massive movement to install the Shah's son, the prince, and he doesn't have support of the people. And I find it humorous to look at all the influencers. All, they're talking about, people being paid by the MEK. Well, who's paying you? Who's paying you to all of a sudden come out for the Shah, right now when you've been absent for years? So I find that kind of humorous and not serious. And I don't think the Shah has supported the people. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, I mean, as an American, it goes against my nature to support any kind of reestablishment of a king or a monarchy.
Yeah.
And to Mr. Pahlavi's credit, though, he has shifted off of the message of I'm the Shah and I should a monarchist, which a lot of his supporters still use, though. But his message is that he thinks he should lead the transition period that results in a democratic government. My instinct, though, as being my 17-year-old self that was watching groups like Sabak do their thing, which generated a lot of the revolutionary fomenting of the Islamists that resulted in this 40-something year reign of hell on earth by the Islamist mullahs there. And it is hell on earth for the Iranian people. I have a cousin that was adopted by my uncle who worked the oil fields, and he was scared to death that he would be sent back to Iran because they would torture him and kill him and execute him publicly just because he had been adopted by an American. So I have major concerns about that. What I have openly said was that the Shah, Mr. Pahlavi, and the head of NCRI, gosh, I'm going to mess up her name, Miriam Rajabi. Yeah, Ms. Miriam Rajabi should come together and work together, because Mr. Pahlavi does have some things like economic plans and reconstruction plans that he has been working on, but he doesn't have the vast organization and units that are all across Iran physically there. That's where the information's coming from. And our knowledge of what's really happening there is coming out of the NCRI folks that have these units organized and on the ground and have been there for many, many, many years. So I'm just concerned they're not working together, and you could end up in another civil war once the Ayatollah does get booted out or killed or something, and it just continues the torture of the Persian people. I'd like to see them go back to being called Persians myself. I'm an old school guy on that, but my hope is that the Persian people inside Iran will be the ones that throw all this off, and that anybody leading a resistance organization, they will all come together and work together to establish a plan to get those people to the point where they can govern themselves.
Well, I was on Bannon's show recently, and we were talking about this, and he said, well, they've got issues. Are they really indigenous? And I said, there's been 130,000 of them executed. You can't get any more indigenous than that. So, yes, they have supported the people, not all the people, but, and there are other groups, but there needs to be, I'm tired of the narrative pushing. It's so obvious now. When you have people who didn't say jack about the leadership in Iran for years coming out all of a sudden behind the Shah, and we're evil and we're criminals if we're supporting the MEK, or, I just reported on the MEK. I'm not paid by the MEK. I've been interested in this movement, and I've reported on it a lot. So
I have too, and I've interviewed the deputy director of NCRI on my show a couple of times over the last 5 or 6 years, since I started talking to folks over there, because they were accessible. I mean, you could talk to them. They're open and transparent, apparently.
Well, and they've worked hard to build, I guess, connections around the world, I think is the appropriate way to say it. But there's also been a huge info op against them in the Western press by the Iranians, by our State Department. You can guess as to reasons why, but someone really doesn't want them in power. That's the bottom line. And they're coming after them.
And I hear it too. The Islamist, communist smear and those kind of things. I just haven't seen that type of
I haven't either.
ideology coming out of the folks that I deal with. As a matter of fact, when I saw I don't know if you saw the U-Haul truck with the signs on it incident that happened in Los Angeles yesterday. When I saw that, I reached out to my contact, who is the son of an MEK warrior that was executed by the Iranians, and asked him about it this morning. When he finally was able to get back, he said, "Hey, it's not us. The messaging on the signs is not our messaging 100%. It's slightly off, and we wouldn't put messaging out like that. If you look at our messaging that comes out of the official sites, you see it's very consistent." And then I got some more video sent to me by him, and it's on X. I shared all of this stuff on X because I'm not being paid by anybody either. I just want the Iranian people to have a chance, and this organization has the strongest. It's got the units on the ground there, and nobody else does. So that's what gives this whole thing a chance, anyway. But anyway, when you look at the other videos that came in, and I saw Laura's reporting this morning when I woke up, and you're right, all these influencers now are taking sides on this, and when I looked at these new videos that came out, and again I shared them on my timeline, so everybody, you're free to. It looks to me like the people that are supposedly in Pahlavi's supporter groups are the ones that started bashing on the truck and probably scared the guy, and he tried to take off and had to call the police to save his life and all kinds of things. But here's what I think it really is that those actors that did initiate that are IRGC folks, or some folks supported by the IRGC that are part of that, because that's the kind of stuff they do. They found a seam, and they want to continue to fracture that seam. I said that months ago when I first came out publicly and said the two groups need to work together.
Or it's somebody who really wants Pahlavi in power. One of the two. That are behind some of these incidents.
Yeah, and there is some factual basis to say that the mullahs would want Pahlavi to be back in power as opposed to the others.
I agree. So yeah, there are interests that are playing out in real time, but I think people can spot this now. So yeah, it's interesting to me to watch.
Well, I'd like to see the president pull both Miriam and Mr. Pahlavi into the office and say they're going to work together. Do his thing, and say, hey, these groups are going to work together if you people inside the country successfully throw off this yoke of tyranny. That would be fantastic, I think.
Well, that would be a big step. Because obviously, as you said, the MEK was formed against the Shah. So yeah, there's a lot of bad memories there. So I don't know.
Yeah, there is.
There is possible.
Yeah, there is a lot of bad memories there. Let's talk before we go to this break and shift a little bit back to some special ops stuff. Let's talk about what targets. If the president decided he's going to strike targets, he said, "Hey, if you kill people that are protesting, I'm going to do something." Well, the report I got through the NCRI was that over 3,000 people have been killed in the last couple of nights. That's when they do their thing against the civilians, is at night, and they pulled the plug on the internet to make that all go dark the last couple of nights. So it sounds like at least one side is reporting much more than 500. So what does that target set look like? Without boots on the ground. I don't know if it would be kind of like a decapitation similar to Venezuela. I don't know if it would be, but again, maybe the nuclear sites, maybe specific air defense so that they're vulnerable again to Israeli strikes, maybe, a certain type of laboratories so that they reduce further their nuclear processing, which is, obviously still going on. I don't see any upside for us in that, to be honest. Yeah, because you have to increase the pain on individuals to get them to change their mind, like individuals around the Ayatollah, to get them to say, okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm either going to flip and go to the side that's coming in, or I'm just going to run. But you got to increase that pain specifically, individually, and it's very difficult to do in air campaigns to target specific
individuals.
I agree.
Trump, I did notice Trump said we have other powerful options. So I don't know if he's thinking like rods from God or something.
I'm thinking
I don't know what he's thinking.
Operation Grim Beeper 10.0.
Maybe.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the greatest non collateral damage operation against organizations in the history of warfare, I believe. Fantastic job by the Israelis.
It was brilliant. You have to say.
I know I complimented the Israelis, but you should compliment the Israelis. They've kept us from having to. They've kept us out of more wars than they've tried to get us involved in. I don't appreciate them getting us involved in that war with Iran when they knew they couldn't do it. But the precedent's on them now. We got to take our last break. When we come back, Todd, we'll talk about. I want to talk about oil tankers and ghost fleets, and it's all linked to the Arctic, Mexico, China, the Middle East, Russia. It's all linked, and it's all being taken care of by the finest special operations forces in the history of military warfare right here by the United States. We'll be right back with Todd Wood.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Breaking news, the US has... Breaking news, the US has seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker near Iceland after a 2-week pursuit across the Atlantic. Russia reportedly sent ships and a submarine to escort the Venezuela-linked tanker, which has since been renamed and flagged under Russian ownership. The US have claimed the seizure was a result of a US federal court warrant in a major escalation of America's presence in the region.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast, and it's More War Monday. My guest is former U.S. Air Force Special Operations helicopter pilot and the head of CDM Press. You got to go check it out. Just Google CDM Press or search it, whatever you want to use, and it'll pop up with their main page and all of their reporting and publications. There's so many of them, I can't name them all, but Armed Forces Press is one of them, and that's great because Todd's now, his organization's a member of the Pentagon Press Pool since last December. Todd, before we dive into that, I had to go to Australia News Service to find the best clip with actual English language that talked about this hit on the ship out in the Atlantic and everything, because the United States didn't cover it that well. Shocker. We got a question in the audience. I want to take that before we get dive into this. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Liz, sir.
Good afternoon, Colonel Todd. My question to you is, who do the people themselves want to be in charge of their country? Because I'm assuming that they'd like to get it back to where it was in the 70s, you know, when they laid on the beach and didn't wear burqas.
You want me to answer that, Rob?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think it should be left up to the Iranian people, and that's our whole point that Rob and I are saying is that I'm not sure the Shah is part of that, because yes, there was I guess cultural freedom back then, but there definitely wasn't political freedom, and I think they want freedom to at least live the way they want to live and not be afraid. There was a lot of fear under the Shah. That's why the MEK, the resistance movement, was created. There were, a lot of executions during the Shah, under the Shah, a lot of torture. They don't want that. But hey, if the Iranian people want Pahlavi to come back in, more power to them. I think it should be their country, and hopefully friendly with us and relations with us for supporting them to move forward to a free country.
Yeah, and I'm with Todd on that. If they want that, but the preponderance of the evidence, and unfortunately, Mr. Pahlavi doesn't have that very many people, if any at all, inside the country. They have a few because we have seen a few try to glom on to these major demonstrations and shout to bring him back. But they're very, very small numbers of it, very small. But the MEK/NCRI organization has all kinds of folks, and the reporting that we get from just people on the ground there is that they just want a non-religious democracy where they have a voice and they're free to do things like say and believe what they want and be prosperous. And I think you would see it. I think you would see it go back to the westernized view, because the Persians are not naturally Islamic. They're not naturally
Correct.
Islamic when I talk to them.
Yeah, and it's another strain. It's a Shia Islam, which is, quite radical.
Yeah.
That whole thing is, I'm to the point where I don't care. Well, let me just say that there's a big Christian community in Iran. I went to one of the MEK events recently, and I noticed a lot of the youth on the stage had crosses on. So I find that fascinating, and I want to support the reemergence of Christianity in the Middle East, whether it be Iran, Syria, Iraq, especially in Lebanon. I want to support the community there. That's one of our big priorities, and we're going to be covering that massively in 2026. So I would say that whatever provides that level of freedom for those communities in Iran, I would be for in a big way.
Absolutely. I'm just for the people that live there to be able to throw this yoke of tyranny off and threat of death and destruction and become free and prosperous. So they can, if they want to be Islamists, Muslim, they can be Muslim. If they want to be Christians, they can be Christian. And the fact that the MEK event had a large number of Christian kids on the stage that had crosses on their, they kind of throws cold water on that whole they're Islamist, communist kind of thing. Okay, so Special Operations Forces. We talked in the background about why are these C-17s going to RAF Fairford in the UK? They're unloading aircraft SOARs, the 160th, which is the special ops guys that flew Delta into Caracas there and snatched Maduro and his wife without losing anybody, and those kind of things. Well, Todd and I and a lot of other people spotted that they were moving over to RAF Fairford. And as you suspected, Todd, and you predicted, they're going to go after some of these oil tankers. But first of all, what is this ghost fleet all about? And is it true that the Arctic has become kind of a super highway for the ghost oil tanker fleet? And that is also linked to this Greenland.
Well, the hit was, as I thought. I mean, when you have P-8s like the Orions, they're going to go surveil tankers or maritime assets, and then you have short range. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's a land bridge to the Middle East." Well, not with little birds. It's not. So, MH6 or MH60s. So I think that was obvious that it was going to go down that way, and we practiced that decades past. So I'm sure they're much better than we were then now. So they have that capability, but it is an issue of routes and resources, as some of my friend Michael Yan says, routes and resources. Getting the resources. That's the whole Belt and Road Initiative, right? And so that's what they are working on to develop those for the U.S. So if we do get resources elsewhere, whether it be oil, minerals, or whatever, we can bring them back to Fortress America. And I think that's the goal, to be blunt. So yeah, I think the tanker. And by the way, John Conrad, our G captain friend, says, "Hey, 5 ships less that we got to build." So
well, yeah, we only have. Remember when the U.S. oil tanker got rammed off of the east coast of Scotland last year? John and I did a show about that. That's when he taught me that, hey, we only have like 11 of these oil tankers, and there's only a couple of them that are called national security tankers, and that was one of them that got hit by that. So yeah, the more of these we can get, the less we have to build. But we got to build a lot to really catch up. 5 or 6 is not even close. You're talking like we need 400 or 500 of these things operating in the world in case we ever have to go to a major war against China.
Completely. You know, I was being somewhat facetious as I think he was, but we need to build ships, and I'm going to be very focused on that as we go forward, and to try to make sure that we get the ships built that we need, and we have the capability to do it. It's a big thing. Hegseth was in Lockheed Martin in Texas today. There's just a lot to go through, and we need to focus on it. What say you?
Yeah.
You agree with me?
Oh, welcome to the club. Conrad and I have been focused on advocating to build more ships for a couple of years now, so we're glad to have you on board and everything. And look, I got Gulfport Harbor's right here. The West Pier of the Gulfport Harbor has 155 acres and potentially out to 1,500 acres that extends out there. But 155 of it's permitted already to put a shipyard. People, if you know any investors that want to go, or shipyard guys that want to expand their capability, bring them to the Gulf of America, because we got expansion ability, new shipyard ability. It's just a matter of money, resources, and the will to do it. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was just down at Ingalls in Pascagoula recently, took some pictures, and that thing was humming. So I think that they're maxed out. We need more. So Gulfport would be.
We need more.
Awesome. It would be awesome for the people of Mississippi too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've already had one pitch take place to some potential investors, and we're looking for more because it hadn't happened.
I'd like to learn. I'd like to learn more about that, actually.
Well, let's talk offline about that, because I would like you to know more about that. And anybody else that's got any money out there that wants to get into shipbuilding, I don't have any, but I'm just a mouth and an advocate that understands the national security aspects, because I'm an Air Force bomber guy that went to the Navy War College, and I've read Alfred Thayer Mahan every day and walked by his painting every day and had to look at him and be reminded that he who controls the seas controls the world. On a permanent basis, not just the semi-permanent basis you get by flying through the air. So it's a big difference, and we've got to reestablish ourselves as that maritime manufacturing nation on our own soil, or we're sunk if we ever get in a fight with the Chinese again. And that may be coming if we don't get strong enough fast enough.
I agree with you 100%, and that's why I want to continue supporting the Department of War's effort to rebuild the arsenal of freedom. So that's the way to prevent a war, and doesn't start a war, it prevents war. I'm a firm believer in that. Yeah.
So these Ghost Fleet oil tankers, these are, just so people understand, folks, these are ships that are not flagged in a country. And I'm not an expert on peacetime maritime, merchant maritime law. But it's my understanding, if you are not flagged in a nation, you're part of this Ghost Fleet or Shadow Fleet, and you can be boarded. You're susceptible to being boarded and essentially confiscated by the country that boards you. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not the legal expert, and of course, I've done my first novel was about the pirates down in the Caribbean. So that happened all the time. That was a thing, right? Western nations would send privateers around and try to capture they called them prizes of the other side ships and make them their own. And so there's a history to this, but I can't imagine that it would be legal for a ghost tanker with no national flag to be operating for a long time, and then all of a sudden they see, Task Force 160 coming in, they run up a Russian flag. I don't think that could be legal.
Well, and the Russians even got them into their database. They even took their registry. So the Russians even did it. So they had to have somebody that called somebody. But you can't do that in midstream, so to speak.
No,
I don't think. I think there's a certain place you have to be, and certain things have to happen. It can't just be done by digital magic and then some watercolor paints by the crew, by the bosun's mates out there painting the flag on the tail end on the fantail there. But yeah, I mean, so they're fair game, and we got about a minute left, Todd. Unfortunately, there's never enough time in this show when we're talking about the world. But do you think that we'll see more of this until this Ghost Fleet is done away with, at least temporarily, by the United States, so that A, we get the tankers, and B, because it does keep Russia from getting resourced, and China, both of them are using them to get oil.
I think there will be specifically targeted to whatever nations we're targeting, whether it be Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, probably are the big ones right now. We'll see what happens with Iran. But we need more ships big time. We need, and it's upsetting that the Navy hasn't got its act together for shipbuilding. And one of Hegseths' big things is, if you're not going to do it in timely, cost-effective manner, we're going around you, under you, over you to go to the next guy who will. So there's a lot of opportunity. That's the message I want to leave with you. There's so much opportunity right now in this sector to be an innovative, company that can help America rebuild. So I would encourage people, if they have those technologies, to get in contact with the Department of War and say, hey, I can build trucks, I can build whatever. And
I would say, I agree.
So,
Thanks for coming on. I would encourage it. I've said it before on this show. Elon Musk, it's time to have ShipX. You could start it right here in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Great idea.
I can help you. Come talk to me. Thanks, Todd. We'll see you later, and I'll be in touch about that shipyard.
Please.
Possibility. Absolutely.
That's my old stomping grounds, man. I was born and raised down
Next
there with
time
red
you're in
mud
Pascagoula, you better call me.
All right.
I'll take you to dinner. All right. Tomorrow, retired Green Beret Adam Smith running for North Carolina 11 congressional seat to unseat the Republican who did nothing to respond appropriately to Hurricane Helena. You don't want to miss this. I'll see you then.
We have a big announcement, folks, something we've been waiting on